Հարգելի նախագահող, ձեր գերազանց
Dear President, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the main substance of speeches of all leaders of the Republic of Armenia from this rostrum has been dedicated to the conflict between the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan. Such were also my speeches from 2018 to 2023. Last year, speaking at the 79th session of the General Assembly, I tried for the first time to speak not about the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, but about peace. My narrative was very cautious, very uncertain, although at that time already more than 12 kilometers of the Armenia-Azerbaijan interstate border had been demarcated for the first time, and the regulations on the joint activities of the demarcation commissions of the two countries had been signed by the two deputy prime ministers. After my speech, pivotal events have occurred in Armenia-Azerbaijan relations. Firstly, the regulations on the joint activities of the demarcation commissions were ratified in both Armenia and Azerbaijan, receiving the highest legal force. This is the first bilateral international document signed and ratified between Armenia and Azerbaijan. In this document, the 1991 December 21 Alma-Ata Declaration is mentioned as the basic principle of border demarcation between the two countries. I'm referring to the demarcation of the interstate border. Thus, the optimistic processes of the preceding period continued over the past year. In March of this year, Armenia and Azerbaijan were able to agree upon a draft agreement on establishing peace and interstate relations and to conclude the negotiations on the draft with such a positive outcome. In that document, too, the parties, referring to the Alma-Ata Declaration, confirmed their understanding that the borders between the former Soviet Socialist republics of the USSR have become the international borders of the respective independent states, and on this basis, they recognize and respect each other's sovereignty, territorial integrity, inviolability of international borders, and political independence. As you have now seen, the reference to the Alma-Ata Declaration means that both countries recognize that the territory of the Republic of Armenia is identical with the territory of the Armenian Soviet Socialist Republic, and the territory of the Republic of Azerbaijan is identical with the territory of the Azerbaijan Soviet Socialist Republic, and the borders encompassing these territories are inviolable. The aforementioned agreement on the establishment of peace and interstate relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan was initialed on August 8th of this year in the U.S. capital, Washington, D.C., at the White House, by the foreign ministers of the two countries, in the presence of the U.S. President, the President of Azerbaijan, and myself. The culmination of the meeting that took place at the White House on August 8 was the declaration that we adopted as a result of the meeting with the President of Azerbaijan, and which was also signed as witness by the U.S. President, Donald Trump. That declaration stated that Armenia and Azerbaijan recognize the need to chart a course for a bright future not bound by the conflict of the past, consistent with the Charter of the United Nations and the 1991 Almaty Declaration, and that after the conflict that brought immense human suffering, the conditions have finally been created for our nations to fully embark on building good neighborly relations on the basis of the inviolability of international borders and the inadmissibility of the use of force for the acquisition of territory. This reality, which is not and should never be subject to revision, paves the way for closing the chapter of enmity between our two nations. We resolutely reject and exclude any attempt of revenge, now and in the future, reads the declaration. In the same documents, we, the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan, reaffirmed the importance of opening communications between our two countries for intrastate, bilateral, and international transportation, for the promotion of peace, stability, and prosperity in the region and its neighborhood on the basis of respect for the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and jurisdiction of the states. These efforts are to include unimpeded connectivity between the main parts of the Republic of Azerbaijan and the Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic through the territory of the Republic of Armenia, with reciprocal benefits for international and intrastate connectivity for the Republic of Armenia. It was also noted that the Republic of Armenia will work with the United States of America and mutually determined third parties to set forth a framework for the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, the TRIP Route Connectivity Project in the territory of the Republic of Armenia. We confirmed our determination to pursue efforts in good faith to achieve this goal in the most expeditious manner. Distinguished President, ladies and gentlemen, what does all this mean? All this means, and I am happy to report to the entire international community, that peace has been established between the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan. Ladies and gentlemen, the role of United States President Donald Trump is decisive in this peace process, whose dedication, consistency, and principledness made possible what seemed to be impossible. This is why we agreed with Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev on our joint decision to nominate President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, because we have seen through our own example that President Trump is truly committed to the idea of peace. I would also like to emphasize the role of the peoples, governments, and parliaments of Armenia and Azerbaijan, without whose support, of course, it would have been impossible to reach this point. Peace, thus, is established, but peace is not a vacation. It is work, everyday work. Peace requires daily care, like a newborn baby, to be protected from infections, the cold and the heat, the indifference and the pessimism. Conflict, indeed, poses far fewer questions before us, and the options for answers in the case of conflict are not many, while peace brings with it questions, new questions, more questions, questions continuously, and peaceful life is about answering those questions with care and not with disdain. Thinking diligently about those questions and formulating the answers in good faith is the institutionalization of peace, which is a continuous necessity and something we ought to deal with every day. In this context, it is extremely important to clarify the fate of persons whose whereabouts are unknown, and to address the issue of persons deprived of liberty as a result of the long-standing conflict, which is also part of our daily work agenda. The TRIP Route infrastructure project will operate in the territory of the Republic of Armenia with a business model agreed upon in a bilateral US-Armenia format, consisting of several dozen kilometers of various infrastructures. The trip route will have both regional and global significance and impact. By the way, in the context of caring for and nurturing the established peace, it is very important to use a pro-peace, legitimate and agreed-upon narrative when speaking about this project as well. The president of Azerbaijan, with whom we adopted the Washington Declaration, has used the so-called Zangazur corridor expression several times since then, including from this rostrum. Such an expression does not exist in the documents agreed upon in Washington. It has never been in the Armenia-Azerbaijan negotiations or documents. I think it makes sense for my Azerbaijani counterpart to clarify what he means by using that expression, because in the Armenian reality, it is perceived as a territorial claim on Armenia and is associated with conflict narrative. In the documents of August 8, we agreed upon clear content and narrative, and it is not possible to understand casting doubt on commitment to those agreements in any way through the narratives I mentioned and or through other narratives expressed from this rostrum. Such narratives do not increase people's faith in peace, nor do they stem from the atmosphere of peace and the agreements reached at the highest level. At various rostrums, the president of Azerbaijan speaks about the alleged capitulation of Armenia. To be frank, I do not understand, in the presence of such a huge positive content achieved through joint hard efforts, why engage aggressive subtexts that are not connected with objective reality? Doesn't peace bring enough joy and satisfaction? To me, for example, it does. What also brings me joy is the fact that the Republic of Armenia is a democratic state that is developing at an impressive pace, independent, sovereign, and building its own future today, a state that does not harbor or spread hatred towards its neighbors or towards anyone. I call on the international community to take note that the so-called Zangazur corridor and similar narratives do not stem from the agreements reached. They have no connection with the agreements. They have an irritating and negative impact and are perceived as a territorial claim against a sovereign country, despite the agreements reached and declared. But this will not divert us 1 millimeter from the practice of celebrating the peace achieved and implementing the agreements declared. In my speech today, by the way, you will not find even one relevant provision or phrase, the justification for which I could not point to in the written agreements reached between Armenia and Azerbaijan in various formats, or in the documents signed and published in Washington on August 8. I suggest that my Azerbaijani counterpart focus on the prompt and precise implementation of the agreements reached, for which the use of legitimate narratives is essential. And so, under the trip route project announced in Washington on August 8, a railway, a highway, pipelines and electricity transmission lines will pass through the territory of Armenia, linking the east to the west. As a result of this agreement, the north will also be linked with the south. The mere geographic enumeration is enough to conclude that this is an accurate reflection of the Crossroads of Peace project, which I had the opportunity to present from this rostrum. The trip route infrastructure project stems from the Crossroads of Peace program, about the capacity development of which we signed a bilateral memorandum with President Trump on August 8 in Washington. I consider it necessary to note that, in accordance with the Washington Declaration, the opening of communications between Armenia and Azerbaijan for intrastate, bilateral, and international transportation will take place on the basis of respect for the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and jurisdiction of the states. And as I indicated earlier, these efforts will include unimpeded connectivity between the main part of the Republic of Azerbaijan and the Nakhichevan Autonomous Republic through the territory of the Republic of Armenia, with reciprocal benefits for international and intrastate connectivity for the Republic of Armenia. These agreements are a good opportunity for the Republic of Armenia to implement state-of-the-art technologies for border, customs, and other controls, not only on the trip route, but also at other border crossings, which will comply with the most advanced modern standards. The opening of the Armenia-Turkey border is important for the trip route infrastructure project, meaning the opening of the railway and the highways, with the prospect of developing pipelines, electricity transmission lines, and cables. I am pleased to note that in recent years, an unprecedented positive dialogue has been established between Armenia and Turkey. My meetings with President Erdogan are regular, with a continuously growing level of trust. This is an achievement that I highly value and am confident will bring positive results in the foreseeable future, namely the establishment of diplomatic relations between Armenia and Turkey and the full opening of the interstate border. Ladies and gentlemen, in recent years, the geography of diplomatic relations of the Republic of Armenia has been visibly and pleasantly expanding. During the 30 years of independence, the Republic of Armenia did not have diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. I am glad to note that now diplomatic relations have been established between our countries and a dialogue is taking place. And the traditional ties of the Republic of Armenia are developing noticeably. Our dialogue and brotherhood with the Islamic Republic of Iran and Georgia are becoming more visible. These relations, along with our relations with Turkey and Azerbaijan, are extremely important for seeing the South Caucasus region as a peaceful, stable, and developing environment. In this sense, I also value the 3+3 format, which is an important platform for us to engage in dialogue with the countries of our region and to develop our traditional dialogue with the Russian Federation, although we always have active contacts with Russia in a bilateral format. We have recently established a strategic partnership with China, and we have active political and ties with India. A balanced and balancing foreign policy opens up new horizons for us. We are intensifying our relations with Japan, Mongolia, the Middle East, and Central Asian countries. Ladies and gentlemen, in March of this year, the National Assembly of the Republic of Armenia adopted the law on initiating the process of Armenia's accession to the European Union, which is of great importance for our agenda. This law is not only the manifestation of our unprecedented high level of relations with the European Union, but also a direct testament to our commitment to democratic values. Many ask when Armenia will become a member of the European Union and how realistic it is. Firstly, 2 of our 4 neighbors are candidate countries for EU membership. And secondly, the law on starting the process of becoming a member of the European Union is above all an incentive for us to consistently continue the democratic reforms. We want to be institutionally and substantively compliant with the EU standards. Short of such compliance, it is impossible to become an EU member. Therefore, when Armenia objectively complies with the standards of the European Union, from that point on, we will have two paths. Either we will be accepted into the EU, or we will not be accepted. If they accept us, fine. If they do not, we will have accomplished a very important task set before us. Armenia will be a country that complies with the advanced, modern standards. Our aspiration to comply with European Union standards is a matter of not geopolitical, but rather democratic choice. Because since the people's nonviolent velvet revolution that took place in Armenia in 2018, we have adopted as a matter of strategy democracy, the rule of law, human rights, and an independent judiciary. In order to make our achievements in the field of democracy more institutional and pro-people, we intend to take the next step in the near future. After receiving the people's mandate once again in the 2026 parliamentary elections, we will initiate a nationwide referendum to adopt a new constitution, as a result of which all branches of government and the legal system established in the country will be organically linked to the constitution maker, that is, with the people, making Armenia's statehood long-lasting and people-centered. Ladies and gentlemen, the year 2026 will be unprecedented in terms of the international engagement of the Republic of Armenia. In May, the Republic of Armenia will host the 8th Summit of the European Political Community, and I cordially invite the heads of state and government of all the member states of the community to participate in this crucial event. This summit is a key platform for European political dialogue, the format of which enables us all to act as a large team connected by shared responsibility for Europe's and global harmony. By the way, it was at the first summit of the European Political Community held in Prague on October 6, 2022, where Armenia and Azerbaijan, as a result of a meeting organized by France and the European Union, for the first time agreed to recognize each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty on the basis of the Alma-Ata Declaration. As you see from my text, that agreement has had decisive importance. It is extremely important, and in the matter of reaching these agreements in Prague, I would like to emphasize the special role of French President Emmanuel Macron and his personal efforts. Dear President, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, from October 18 to 30, 2026, Armenia will host the 17th Conference of the Parties to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, and it is my honor to invite all heads of state and government to participate in that conference in Yerevan. I hope that by then I will have reported at the 81st session of the UN General Assembly that the agreement on peace and the establishment of interstate relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan has been at least signed, the border between Armenia and Turkey has been opened, and the large part of the trip route investment project has been implemented. The Republic of Armenia reaffirms her commitment to the peace agenda and the achieved peace. I am convinced that with close dialogue with Azerbaijan and the support of regional countries and the international community, we will never again deviate from the path of peace. Long live dialogue. Long live diplomacy. Long live peace. Thank you.